Today I'm talking to Piers Corbyn, brother of the former leader of the UK Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn. You're known for your views, theories, and we're going to talk about all of that today. Well,
Thank you very much. Fantastic to be here.
Thank you, Piers. So I'm going to start with the basics and go from there. And we're going to start on Israel. Can you condemn what Hamas did on October the 7th, where they massacred over 1,200 people?
Well, of course, I condemn all massacres, and I condemn the genocide, I would say, happening now in Gaza. But I think an important thing about October the 7th, it wasn't as simple as the media said at the time, because obviously it's such a defended barrier there that there was connivance from the Israeli government or the IDF or both to allow this thing to happen. And it's a monstrosity, but it was used then as an excuse for this invasion and massacre and genocide happening now in Gaza.
What do you mean they allowed it to happen?
Well, the IDF was stood down. Soldiers or whatever they were allowed to get in and, took people out.
They were stood down, they were allowed to get out. How do you know all of this?
This was reported in the Israeli media.
Well, they were stood down?
Well, I don't know if that's the exact phrase, but certainly they were not there.
Yeah, they were not there. I mean, we all know that there was like a fit. They came quite late, and there was a huge error. But how does that connect to
that? There's hours involved. I mean, it's just, the point is, it's not credible that this just happened in the way described. And of course, there's been a lot of discussion in the Israeli media about this, and the whole thing became an excuse for what is happening now.
No, I understand that, but of course, what happened was there's raises a lot of questions, as we both can agree upon. But there are loads of questions which we can both agree upon, and there's a lot of questions to be answered about what actually happened on October 7th, and why did Israel army come so late to the borders? What happened?
Well, they're meant to be there all the time. They shouldn't be coming late at all. They're meant to be there all the time. It's a border.
So all of this, but how does that connect to saying, okay, there's questions? Oh, no, suddenly Israel. How do you know that suddenly? No, that Israel planned this to do this as an excuse to do what they're doing.
There's various claims that it was planned for a year and known about, and the Israeli government was warned.
That's various
claims. All of that stuff is
that's
in the
claims.
Israeli media. Well, yes, I think it's probably fact, and it was a perfect excuse for what has happened or what is happening.
But do you get what I'm saying? What I see is you see these big questions.
I know, but look,
they're drawing up to make
whatever.
It a fact.
Anyway, it's unjustifiable. It's an excuse for a massacre, and of course, it's got Netanyahu off the hook. He ought to be in prison for corruption, but he's.
What did he get him off the hook for?
Pardon?
What did he get him off the hook for?
Well, he's busy fighting
I'm saying
a war, as a would say.
Instead, what did he get off the hook for?
Well, my understanding, there's various potential charges against him.
He's still in court with those charges, isn't he?
Well, he may indeed be, but I would suggest perhaps he should be in jail.
I guess that's the justice system that we've got. Let's talk about actually what's happening right now, and because we talked about 10%, what's happening right now is. You called it a genocide, but let's go backwards.
Well, you can call it genocide or a massacre, but a genocide involves the removal and ending of a people. It may or may not be killing all of them, it's removing them all from that area, so that obviously the Israeli government, the British government, the American governments want the oil under Gaza, and they want to build a canal through Gaza, the Ben Gurion Canal,
they want the oil
to compete with the Suez Canal.
So what I see is you've said all these things about October 7th, about oil under Gaza, but you probably have you probably see something that makes you say into that's a fact, but it seems like quite a stretch.
Well, there is
how do you
know?
Gaza. Well, how do you know that's what they're specifically trying to do to get oil into Gaza?
Well, they're not necessarily going to tell us, but I'll tell you that is.
How do you
fact
know?
About what's under Gaza.
No, that's a fact. That's what's under Gaza. But how do you know that's what they're trying to do with what they're trying to do now instead of getting rid of Hamas? It's to do this.
Well, I mean, Israel, of course, has been funding Hamas at various times in the past, and they've said so because it's convenient to have an extremist, if you like, organisation there and a different one elsewhere, and all providing an excuse for this removal of the people, genocide, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering about the oil. Like, how do you know what they're doing right now is definitely a pretense just to get the oil?
Well, it isn't just to get the oil. It's also a canal. It's also Greater Israel. There's many things, but that would be a reason for other countries to have an interest in it.
Okay, and then also about what you said about what you said about Hamas supporting Israel. I've heard of that before.
Being supported by Israel or funded by.
Yeah, I've heard of that theory before. I mean, all I've seen, I've tried to research them. All I've seen is quotes and put it in. If you put them all together, then
carry on researching. I mean,
I think that's why I'm talking to you, because I think it's important to talk to different sides and to talk to people.
I'm not an expert on the Middle East, but.
I'm seeing you've got a lot of thoughts on there, so that's what makes it quite interesting. So do you count Hamas as a security threat?
Well, I count Israel, who are doing this whatever deal or something with Hamas, was also a security threat to itself.
You don't know that's true. You just see some quotes out of context, and unless you've got proof that I haven't seen.
Well, indeed, yes.
Well, what do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
Like, do you have proof that you can show that Israel definitely funded Hamas?
I have seen quotes from previous leaders in Israel saying that, yes, and why they were doing it. I haven't got them in front of me now.
Okay, whatever. So we'll just move on from that. But would you call Hamas a terrorist organisation? Would you call Hamas a security threat to the state of Israel?
Well, it's all of those things, but of course it's made worse by the Israeli government's allowing these things to happen.
So you're saying if it was... because what I'm trying to wonder is actually like almost work backwards with you. So if Hamas is a security threat to Israel, then Israel have...
Yeah, but you see, you want to use that phrase to justify genocide and killing women and children, which I don't accept.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting...
Of course, against all these massacres and killings or whatever, completely all of them.
Yeah, I mean...
And it's claimed as well, of course, the IDF killed a lot of people as by accident, maybe, who knows? But, in fact, that is kept as a fact.
Yeah, well, I mean...
So, therefore, the IDF is a threat to Israel's status as well, because it's killed its own people, maybe by mistake, whatever. I mean, but these things do happen.
Yeah, so what I tend to do is I tend to see them and say, okay, there's questions, but I'll wait for in a report, or even, for example, you call it a genocide, and I say, listen, I'll wait for the International Court of Justice to give
of course, they are using that phrase, indeed, yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. When I see all of this, I say, okay, we need to wait for the International Court of Justice, but you almost...
If you're bombed by an Israeli plane and you and your children die, to call it a genocide or a massacre is really irrelevant.
Okay, so let's move on to the Labour Party. There's a lot of questions.
Yes.
I mean, your brother used to be the former leader of the Labour Party,
so I
think you know a bit more than an average person.
Well, I'm his longest standing supporter.
Oh, that's like a good family member. So the other week, a Labour candidate for MP in Rochdale called Azhar Ali was caught saying, and I'm going to quote this, Israel deliberately took the security off and then to knowingly allow the 7th of October attack to happen, and then, quote again, to give them the green light to do whatever they want.
A bit like what I've just been saying.
Exactly what you've been just saying.
Well, I believe that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so
ask your question.
Yeah, so after there was an uproar about this, so Keir Starmer, who's now the new leader of the Labour Party, withdrew his support and essentially kicked him out of the party. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, he should have been allowed to say what he did, and there could be discussion with him about what happened, of course, but to kick him out for that, especially during an election time, is wrong and actually tactically stupid, but, leave that to Mr. Starmer.
I mean, tactically, I would disagree. I actually think it's tactically. I mean, if you're trying to reach a large audience, especially the moderate people, then this will definitely scare off a lot of people, do you not think?
The massacre,
your
genocide happening in Gaza has got massive... the people of Palestine have got massive support in Britain, so it depends on the population in Rochdale, but I would say it's necessary and useful and good for him to speak the truth like that, what he sees as the truth, if you like, in that election, and it would have got him votes, but because of this confusion in the Labour Party, the consequence is that George Galloway will probably win.
Yeah, I mean, there was a total...
And I'd, if I was there, I'd vote for George Galloway.
I mean, there was total confusion within the party, like you're saying.
Total confusion.
Yeah,
look, I used to be a Labour organiser. I was invited to number 10 as one of the best organisers in the country in 1998.
Was that when Jeremy was...
98, no, a long time ago, when Blair got elected. But, the incompetence of the way they're running that by-election is beyond belief.
Yeah, I mean, just to give people context if they don't know what happened, he had these comments came out and then he put an apology.
Well, he wasn't hiding them. Yeah. Well, he shouldn't apologise. That's another thing.
He shouldn't apologise for this.
He should not apologise, no, not during an election, certainly not.
Right, so do you think that... So you're saying the Labour Party shouldn't kick him out for something like this. No. Do you think do you think the Labour Party or any political party should have any lines with what they say their MPs should?
Well, of course, but you see, Labour policy generally is, conference policy is in fact to support the people of Palestine. So leaving aside the details, to kick him out for that is not a right thing to do.
So if someone, let's say, were to lie, make a really big lie about a really big important statement that can maybe even change, political issues around the world, do you think that person should be kicked out if they say something really bad?
Well, it depends. Obviously, there could be things happening. I mean, he could say Hitler was right. Well, that would be expellable, straight away. I would say,
So let's work out, why would that be expellable? Because he is encouraging the genocide of the Jews, right?
Well, whatever, whatever context he said it. Yes, it could be. Yes.
Yes, what I'm saying right now is he's deliberately saying something which is pushing Israel as being really evil, which we don't know for sure.
He's talking about that event on October the 2nd.
He literally said Israel deliberately took their security off to give them the green light to do whatever they want.
This is stuff that's appeared in the Israeli media.
That doesn't mean. There's all.
Well, of course.
Parts of
how do you know as a fact anyway? Anything? How do we know anything?
How do we know anything? I try and look at proofs and statistics, especially international.
Anyway, I'm saying that what that candidate said was a reasonable thing, but the consequence of chaos in the Labour Party is likely that George Galloway would win. And if I was in Rochdale, I would vote for him, and I'm encouraging everybody up there in that area to vote for George Galloway.
My question to you is, shouldn't there be like a line where you can't cross? And I think this will be
there are lines.
Saying something as a fact.
In any party there will be lines, but I would say this isn't one of them.
Yeah, well, we don't know it's a fact, and he's stating it as a fact, and he's stating something quite outrageous if it's not a fact.
Well, can his claims be negated and shown to be untrue? And I don't think they can be shown to be untrue. It's an important thing to look at facts from both sides.
Okay, Brendan, let's talk about the last topic, which is climate change. So Dick can't introduce.
Indeed.
Well, he didn't really introduce it, but there's a scheme in London which is called ULEZ, which charges people who use cars who have high emissions and they charge them per day. I think it's like
the ultra-low emission zone. Yes.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about climate.
Yes,
What's your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, the ultra-low emission zone to reduce pollution doesn't reduce pollution; it increases pollution because cars have to drive greater distances, and paying to pollute, if that's what it is, doesn't end pollution at all. I myself was driving a 1995 Vauxhall Cavalier. I ran a fine, so-called, of £61,000. The car was confiscated and I bought it back in an auction, and I'm still driving it around. So
did you pay your fine?
No.
No?
Well, no, I didn't. They got a order for £61,000, but they expended that by seizing the car, which was then sold back to me for £850. So that's finished.
Wasn't very good maths on that for them.
Well, yeah, I got it at a 97% reduction, if you like. But anyway, the whole thing is a pack of lies. It doesn't reduce pollution, and in terms of reducing carbon dioxide, it doesn't do that either, because people just drive greater distances. Point about the facts of climate change is that man-made climate change does not exist. The greenhouse
man-made does not exist at all.
No,
really,
no, it doesn't. Because carbon dioxide levels historically follow temperatures, as shown on this graph, which we looked at.
Should be the screen, the camera should be catching it.
Yeah. The carbon dioxide level follow changes in temperature, and that is shown by 20,000 years of data. And the so-called greenhouse effect is fake physics. And if you want to know more, go to my website, weatheraction.com, and download a article about this. And if you want to know more about the resistance to the ultra-low emission zone, come to theunitedfront.uk. And I will in fact be standing as a London Mayor candidate to defeat Sadiq Khan and the ultra-low emission zone, and also in the London housing crisis, or let's say attempt to do so.
Let me just stick on the point of ULEZ and we'll finish in 2 minutes. How can you say that man-made climate change doesn't exist? Doesn't that give...
I've just told you the evidential reason why. Yeah. Because carbon dioxide levels follow temperatures. Look, I've been involved in this for years. Yeah. I was present at the Royal Astronomical Society when the data came out, and then somebody said, yes, but it's the wrong way round, and everybody closed their mouths.
So you're saying
the whole thing of man-made climate change is not to control climate, it's to control you. It's completely untrue. Man-made climate change does not exist. If you don't believe me, you could go through all the facts in our pamphlet. Man-made climate change does not exist, as is what it's called. Download it from weatheraction.com for nothing.
Well, I don't agree with it, but what I'll have to do afterwards,
evidence. Yes. You give me evidence. We're challenging scientists all over the world, any of them, to come forward and have a debate to show the evidence. They refuse always.
Do you know what I'll do? I'll take one of your booklets and I'll read it afterwards, and I'll go home and read it properly.
Excellent. We'll make sure you have one.
Brilliant. Thank you for joining, Piers.